There are true moments of brilliance to be found in Hellpoint's sci-fi souls-like, but unfortunately these are overshadowed by questionable design choices, frustrating traversal mechanics, and far too many bugs. You play as a Spawn, one of the last true humans to be awakened on the Irid Novo space station. You soon discover that while you're in hibernation, the owners of the station summoned 3 cosmic gods into this universe from a parallel dimension with, as you can imagine, disastrous consequences. The station was overrun and its inhabitants transformed into demons. After meeting up with an AI, known only as the Author, you are tasked with gathering as much data on what happened as possible so it can fix the devastating hellscape the place has become. It's an interesting hook, and Hellpoint gives off a good first impression. The massive decaying star visible from the observatory, or the purple neon lights of the arcology, mix sci-fi and brutalist architecture to great effect. It's a pity then that these early environments are, in my opinion, 2 of the 3 most interesting levels of the game. And before long, our protagonist is sent elsewhere. I spent a lot of time traipsing down one dark forgettable corridor after another. With so many reused assets, I often found myself completely lost. Not only was this frustrating to navigate, but some corridors were so narrow it was impossible to dodge correctly, leading me to getting stun-locked or pushed into a corner without a means to retaliate. The other issue with the level design is a major over-reliance on platforming sections. All Souls-likes have the occasional area where some jumping is required, but it's far too frequent here and the controls just aren't tight or consistent enough. Most egregious examples are the magnetic rails that are Hellpoint's equivalent of ladders. There are instances in the game where you have to jump sideways or backwards off one of these rails, and the camera is so finicky you have about a 50% chance of going in the wrong direction and falling to your death. The platforming wouldn't be an issue if it was only for optional loot or lore, but it's not. In fact, one of the most important items in the entire game needed to obtain the true ending is at the bottom of a platforming death trap that had me sweating and yelling far more than the final boss. Sometimes it can take a while to get to those platforming sections too. Hellpoint doesn't freely allow you to fast travel between its breaches or bonfires. You have to use an item to synchronize the breach first. The item is sufficiently rare that you probably won't find enough to synchronize everything, so you'll have to pick and choose, which is especially annoying when you burn one of these items only to discover a shortcut or elevator to another area 5 minutes later. The way you level up your spawn in Hellpoint is interesting, but once again obtuse and poorly explained. In true Souls-like fashion, you have various stats you can increase and weapons that can be upgraded, both by using them, like Neo's familiarity mechanic, and by slotting them with different types of catalysts. I mostly go for a strength build in my Souls games, so naturally I dumped a load of points into health, stamina and strength, only to see a negligible increase in damage. I'm talking a point or 2 extra per level. It took me a trip to the Hellpoint wiki to understand that stats only need to be leveled to be able to wield certain weapons and armor, and that the actual damage comes from the catalyst, not from the stat. Even more obtuse is the fact that slotting, say, a reflex catalyst onto a strength weapon is actually more effective than using a strength catalyst on a strength weapon, as it adds an additional scaling stat instead of just increasing the first one. It's an interesting idea, but so poorly explained I gave up on my initial build and ended up respeccing entirely, something, by the way, that wasn't available at launch. Fortunately, the game became much easier as a result, perhaps too easy in some cases, especially as the bosses have slow, easily read attacks that can be dodged through or away from, and one of the healing items actually heals you for 150 to 200% of your initial health, so even if you do get hit, your health bar still ends up full. The dual final secret boss fight, however, was another kettle of fish entirely, and took me a good dozen attempts or so. I think that what makes Hellpoint hard to recommend in general is that it often confuses difficulty and frustration. It has some generally great moments of exploration that are hampered by too many platforming sections, some innovative art design that is sandwiched between stretches of long, boring corridors, and an innovative upgrade system that needs a better tutorial or description. I'm hoping these discrepancies can be ironed out in a future sequel, but as it stands, Hellpoint is a disappointment. and I will be placing it in the D tier. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.